So thank you all for joining us today for the Building Your Resume, What Employers Want to See workshop. Joining us today is Dr. Darren Vetter. He's with Career and Professional Development Specialist with the Career Services. He's going to discuss how to build an effective job-specific resume that highlights your qualities, skills, and experience. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to him so he can get us started for the day.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. Happy to do this afternoon. And like she said, if you guys have questions, just ask your questions during the program and then they can get those to me. So let me try to get this thing working right. And then let me know if somebody can, if you can see this okay.
We can see it. Great.
All right, perfect. So we're going to discuss building your resume today. So I'm going to go over a lot of basics, but as I'm going through this, I'll mention several different things that kind of apply in the job market and the job system right now when applying for jobs. What gets overlooked by a lot of people, and Henry mentioned this a few times, is that your resume and your cover letter really should in fact steal information from the job posting. And that may sound kind of crazy, but it really is not. The way employers are looking at different jobs applications and the information that they get from people that are applying for jobs is they're looking for things that match. And to start out, I'll give you a quick little story. So I had a student in my office many months ago was applying for a job as a police dispatcher. So when you think about a job of a police dispatcher, so that's going to be on the 911 side, but also some general calls that come into the police station. You think about what they have to do for that job. And so we looked at the job description and all we did was took the resume of that person and manipulated it, put on there things like typing, 75 words per minute. That person was lucky enough to speak two languages, so put English and Spanish on there. Put multitasking, was able to do several different things at one time. And the third thing was, believe it or not, use a multi-line phone. And so when we put all that information in there, and then we put additional information on their experience on how they know how to chat really well and how to type in different chat phrases, and that's what the police force needs. When you open the job description, that matched like 60% of the job description for being a police 911 dispatcher. So that's kind of a way to think about it from a quick little story on what do I have to do to my resume to kind of make it work. So as I mentioned with Career Services, we have a slide. I know later we have moved. We are now on Maryland Parkway. So we are on the second floor above Crumble Cookie over here with the Graduate College. And like 800 other restaurants that are over here, which is not all bad. So what does Career Services do? So we do career and professional development. So help you with resumes, cover letters, interviews, things like that. Mentorship, internships, and experiential learning. So a lot that's going on with that right now. And then we connect you with employers and finding employment. So we have a career fair that's not very far away, October 26th. It's going to be at Thomas and Mack. We're expecting around 220 to 230 employers there. And so we have got also a program called Prepare for the Fair before that, where we're going to spend an entire day helping students and alumni with resumes to get ready for that career fair. And that's going to be on the 19th. So those fun things are coming up. So with current professional development, so as I mentioned, we work on resumes, curriculum vitas, cover letter building. The thing that you'll never have to worry about, there's no such thing as a perfect resume. Interview preparation, we practice with your interview skills. You can meet with career coaches to prepare for job interviews. And what we do over here now is very specific. So if you're working on an interview and you need help, and say your interview is for accounting, we are going to come up with 10 to 12 accounting questions. We don't use general questions. Whatever you're interviewing for, if you can let us know, it's going to be very specific. So it's going to give you more of a real world example with that. And then job searching, how to navigate job boards, job postings, how to effectively apply for an opportunity, job offers and salary negotiations. I got a great program on salary negotiation. So if anybody's ever got questions, set up an appointment with Maria. We can talk about negotiating a salary, and then several different workshops just before you guys. In this workshop, I did another workshop for a class earlier today. So that's on the development side. And then our career toolkit, which is on our career services website. All this is accessible for anybody that wants to look at it. There's different examples of resumes, cover letters, information on networking. There's a lot of good information on graduate school that we have in there that works with its ties with the library, and then career exploration assessments. There's several of those that are in there in that toolkit. So when we get to the basics of resumes, so what people will say when they see our resumes and talk to us at Career Services, our resume examples are very boring. And there's several reasons why they're very boring. And I'll give you some examples of those here in a little bit, but you want the paper to be very simple, very clean, very organized. You want fonts to be the exact same throughout it. You don't want to use a bunch of crazy italics and things like that. So the resume, it's a one page, sometimes two, but it's a summary. So that's what it really is. It's going to include your academic work, your professional work, any volunteer, any leadership, and any experience that you have. A curriculum vitae is not a resume. So several of you might have already heard that word curriculum vitae. What is a curriculum vitae? People that are in different professions, like say biology, science, people that are applying for medical school for sure, and then anybody in education will have a curriculum vitae. We've seen some recent applications here on campus that we've looked at for different dean positions. In some of the curriculum vitas, I kid you not, you're talking 16 to 18 pages. The Vita will list things like research interests. It will list conferences attended. It will list publications. So it'll also list references. So it has like this whole nother big meat part of it that kind of fits in with all those other professions. For us on like the business side and applying for general jobs, one page is what it's going to be. So like I mentioned, more detailed, the curriculum vitae is for fellowships, grants to postdoctoral positions, and anything like that. And then on the bottom left, our fun little part there. So resume, French word for summary, curriculum vitae is the course of life. So that's why those two documents get so different. So then we have all the resume sections. So contact information, what you guys will hear from us in career services and what you'll see on the top, it's your name big and bold on the top, and it's one line under that. You don't need a street address anymore. Phone number, email, city of Las Vegas and the state, and your zip code is all you need on there. If you have a LinkedIn profile, and you can put that on there too, that can go on the line right below it. But the whole idea with a resume is it's space. So for professional resumes, and what you're trying to do is try to be very efficient with space, but also leave room to put information that's important about your education, information that's important about your work experience, and then especially if you have volunteer experience, which is great to see on the resume. So contact education, your work experience, awards and activities, the volunteer, and then skills and technology is a big one too. Another thing that comes up a lot too that people leave off the resume in some cases, if you speak more than one language. So make sure that that is somewhere where it's kind of predominant on resumes. One of my best friends, she is finishing up an international language program right now for the Chinese language. She already knows Spanish really well, and she knows English, and her job is to apply for an international business job, because knowing those three languages, which is the way trade is right now, is a really good collection of things to know. So then design strategies, fonts, veranda, Arial, Times New Roman. Bold is just going to be different job titles and section headings that you guys will see in our example here in a minute. And then alignments. You want the dates to be on the right. And then on the margins of the paper, I recommend just going to a 1/2 inch right away, because typically people are going to run out of room on the resume when they're filling it out. And oddly enough, I know Google and Microsoft Word both have resume templates that are built into their program. So you can click on Word, you can click on New, and you can go to Resume. There's major problems with templates on trying to adjust those and fix those because of the way Microsoft and Google builds those. So you want to keep those out. You want to go from just a blank Word document. Tables and charts, not good for resumes. Images, not good at all. Columns, not good at all. You want everything to go straight across, left to right on the whole thing. And as the note says, you want to aim for consistency with the document. So contact information. So we'll go through all this information a little bit closer. It's not a legal document. You can use whatever name that you want to use. You can include pronouns if you want to. Location, as I mentioned, city and state are fine. Your professional email address. So your UNLV email is going to always be a safe bet to use. Phone number, also with the phone number, make sure you have a voicemail message set up. I love people that don't have voicemail set up. Why do you even have a phone if you don't have voicemail? So make sure you have a voice message set up. And if you're applying for jobs, make sure you have a professional voicemail set up on your phone and make it easy for people to contact you. And so this is your first impression, right? Your contact information, it's on the top of the page. So you want to make sure it's clean and neat and looks good. And here's an example. So Mr. Joe Smith. So phone number is very simple, UNLV email, Las Vegas, Nevada, not even a zip code on here. Clean, organized. What we tell people or we recommend is make the name about a 16-point font and make the rest of the document 11. And that's a really good way to organize the document when you put it together. And so then education, you're going to emphasize your educational background. You're going to demonstrate to employers your education is relevant to the job. This is going to help your resume stand out. And then in 95% of the time, I always tell people do education right after your contact information and make that one the very next one on the resume. So go contact information first and then do your education next. So elements of education, so schools you've attended, location, the date of graduation. You can also put the date that you're going to get your degree. So like right now, if you're earlier in school, you're not going to graduate till December of 2024. You don't have to put estimated, just put December of 2024. People realize that's going to be a year and a half away. The degrees that you conferred, your GPA while you're still in college, only if you're above 3.0. If you're below that, don't put your GPA on there. It's not recommended. And then another part that you can add to the resume is relevant coursework. In our example, if you're applying for a communication position with a company and you look at the job posting, you may want to list 3 or 4 communication classes that you had that are relevant back towards that job that you're applying for. So that's always a good idea. This works out really strong and really good in engineering classes and in architecture classes on listing those classes that are very relevant and just matching those up to what the job posting is going to be. And then language or technical skills can also add to your qualifications. So then here's some examples of education. So you can see how simple, how clean, and how neat this is. Bachelor of Arts, Associates of Arts, relevant coursework is listed there, Bachelor of Science in Engineering, and then the languages are listed here with the education. So what I tell a lot of students and alumni when I'm meeting with them, when you look at the resume and you look at how we have people put the resume together, the only part of education that's bold is the degree. University of Nevada, Las Vegas is not bold. If you went to College of Southern Nevada, that would not be bold. If you got an associate's degree at College of Southern Nevada, that would be bold. And the reason why is a couple different things. We'll get into applicant tracking system here in a little while, and that's the computer system that looks at a resume. And then I'll tell you a story about people at a career fair where there's a bunch of people waiting. When somebody's looking at the resume and or a computer looking at it, you want to pick out the main things and you want to be able to pick them out pretty quick. So that's why you have those sections in bold and other information is not in bold in this case. So that's the first sample. Then here's another one. So Bachelor of Science, Business Administration and Marketing, December 2021. So here they listed of the minor in Women and Gender Studies, probably because it matches the job description. And then under their technical skills, this can go either at the schoolwork or it can go at the bottom of the document. It's just kind of take your pick on where that goes. But here listed a whole bunch of information that probably matches close to the job description again. So then experience. So what counts? Jobs, internships, volunteer positions, teaching and research assistantships, leadership opportunities, memberships and extracurriculars, and project experience. So any activity or position that involves qualifications that are needed for the job you're applying for. So this is where your experience part's going to match to the job description. What I tell people on resumes is you want to list your work experience. If you title the heading like that, list work experience as paid. If you have unpaid, that's internships or volunteer different things, put a different heading on those because you want to make it very clear what jobs you were paid for and which ones that you were not. And that's a good rule of thumb to keep with that. So then experience, it's going to describe your skills, right? Explanation of what you learned or accomplished. Focus on the achievements, indicate your qualifications for what you're applying for. And then this is not an information dump. So I've seen people before use 15 or 18 bullet points on describing one job. That is way too much information. That becomes information dump. There's different things that you want to have stand out on the resume, and we'll get into some of those in a little bit. And all this is going to establish your unique professional identity when you put this together. So here's where we get into. So this is what's really important when we're talking about businesses and what they're looking at today. So applicant tracking system software, so ATS. So employers are collecting and sorting applications and resumes for every position that they're using. This software helps them sort it and put this information together for the recruiters. Guess who uses applicant tracking software? University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So any jobs that are applied for here, those go through the applicant tracking software. And so that puts out the information to HR on which 5 or 6 or sometimes 8 or 10 applicants look the strongest. And then from there, those are reviewed by somebody manually, and then they're picked out for interviews. So the job posting, as we mentioned, circle the skills and knowledge abilities that you want to make sure you meet them. Identify the requirements that you don't meet, but if you have similar experience, be sure to note those and identify your strongest matches. So remember, the resume is trying to get you the interview, and then the interview is where you elaborate more on your experiences and what you have done. So the software, this is important to think about because the computer scans from the top to the bottom. It's going to identify key terms and information. So here's the thing this poor system does not like. It does not like color. It does not like design elements. It does not like pictures. A thing that people just did not know, some people for a long time would put their picture on a resume, even like a business resume. So when that thing hit the computer system to scan it, when it gets to the picture, it doesn't know what to do. And what does it do? It kicks it out. So those are things to avoid. If you're in the fine arts field and you're into photography and art and theater, yes, you can put pictures on your resume because the resumes and portfolios there are totally different. But for a general business and general resumes, you want to keep those out. So I tell the story a lot. So you look at this comparison. So our March career fair this past March 2022, we had one employer there that had two recruiters. And so the two recruiters are standing there and there's two lines forming and there's over 20 students in each line. So when a student gets to the recruiter with 19 or 20 people behind them, they may have 1 or 2 minutes to talk to the student. Hey, where are you from? Why are you interested in our company? What's your experience look like? And so the recruiter, while talking to them, they might have 10 or less seconds, maybe 15 if they're lucky, to look at the resume. So that's why our recommendations are keep the thing very simple to read, keep it very clean and very organized. And this will help both with the computer system and then if you are at a career day function, whether it's here or it's somewhere else. So then tips for success, 80% of the language on the resume should match the position you're applying for. Organize your headings and your sections strategically, cut out all the fluff and give yourself enough time to write and edit those descriptions. So here's a fun part of this, and we might even have an exercise coming up. So understated versus appropriate emphasis. So on the left, this is what somebody put on a resume, recorded daily sales and documents. So when you read that, what does that tell you that they do? They recorded daily sales and documents. Did it tell you how they did it? No, it really doesn't. Did it tell you how much they did? No, it doesn't. So it's very basic and brief. So if we just modify that a little bit on the right, recorded $1,000 in daily sales through consistent engagement with customer and relationship building. So which one looks better? Obviously the one on the right. Next one, answered phones, right? Something very simple. I work at an office, I'm answering the phones all day. On the right side, utilize effective communication and organizational skills to manage incoming call volume of 25 clients per day. Looks way better. Here, I'll stop and tell you if you're building your resume and you have information that you can put in quantifiable data, you want to do that. I've had people come in that are talking with me about resumes and they're like, well, I didn't do much. I worked at In-N-Out Hamburger. And I'm like, well, yes, you did. Let's think about it. And so when we started thinking about it and thinking about the activities of a normal 6-hour shift, it was taking in, I think, $800 to $1,200, which was a lot. But it was also serviced and worked with, I think the customer number was like 312 or 318 that we came up with. So when you look at that, he just says, hey, I took care of customers and I did this. But if you look at the alternative, but I took all this money in, but I dealt with over 300 customers, it makes it more dynamic and it makes it sound really good. So that's a good way to think about anything you can quantify on your resume. And the last one, wipe tables. I cleaned up, right? Super boring. Who cares? No. Adhered to state public health codes by sanitizing tables and created positive public images for restaurant, leading to a 5% increase in customer satisfaction. So this is a great way to take some emphasis and go from something that looks like very simple, not that interesting, and then turn it around and make it look really, really dynamic. So here's where I have an exercise, but I'm on my laptop. I don't have a way to look at the chat. So do you guys want to do this for the group and let them respond?
Yeah, absolutely. You could just explain the exercise and then perhaps you guys can put your answers and then I can definitely read them out.
Okay, perfect. So this is going to be similar to what we just looked at. So in this exercise, we have 3 statements that we found on resumes. So one person puts something very simple, good customer service. The next person puts something extremely simple, file documents, and the third one is analyze and record data. So in the exercise part of this, I always ask, hey, do you have a more dynamic or a better way to describe any of these activities on a resume that don't look just so drab and not interesting, right? So we can give them a minute or two or however long they need if they want to chat or if they want to, whatever's easiest.
Yeah, if you guys want to, if you feel more comfortable, you can definitely put your responses in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to unmute yourself momentarily and you can just speak them to the group. Hi, Jennifer. So right now we're doing an exercise. If you look on the screen there are some bullet points, and these are just bullet points off of a resume. And now we're asking to rewrite these bullet points in a more dynamic way that maybe includes something quantifiable. So if you could just rewrite the bullet point, and then you can either share it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and just share it with the group verbally.
And Marley, I can show the previous screen again if you want me to. That's got the other examples.
Yeah, go back and then this is an example for you, Jennifer. So right, so you see on the left there is kind of like the exercise, and then on the right would be like your response.
And I said in and out earlier because it's right outside of my window when I'm staring out my new building over here. So,
No problem, Jennifer. Isabel, yes, you are going to have access to this recorded meeting. It's going to be on the Graduate College YouTube channel later on. I would say at least by next week. Okay, do you want to go one more slide to
yep,
the, thanks. Okay, Kashmira has left an example. This is for good customer service. Instead of that, she wrote elevated customer experience through efficient service, increasing average satisfaction ratings by 10%.
perfect. That's excellent.
We have another one for the first bullet point. This is from Fatima. She wrote, provided customers with memorable experience while upholding company standards and increasing customer satisfaction.
Excellent. Yeah,
I wrote
yeah, there you go.
I wrote one as well.
Did you?
For the second bullet point, filed documents, I have organized over 100 documents according to company standards.
Perfect.
Anyone want to try this last bullet point? Oh, Jonathan wrote one for the first one as well. Exceptional attention to customer needs and satisfaction, resulting in increased customer return sales by 5%.
Excellent. That's great. I might steal that one for later.
That is a good one.
I have one for the last one, the analyze and record data.
Perfect.
This is very specific, but what I have is experience collecting UV-Vis spectroscopy data and analyzing said data for the band gap.
Wow.
Perfect.
Really good.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for participating in the exercise here. Good job.
Yep, appreciate it, everybody. Those are great feedback, and that's what we're here for, career services, and that's what we do with a lot. A lot of people have resumes that are put together, and what we're doing is trying to enhance them and try to make them better. Our friends at the Lee Business School have in the resources on Handshake, they have a list of action verbs, which when you look at the resume, you want to see words like managed, quantified, provided, developed. And so they have this beautiful list of action verbs that are actually alphabetized on their document, which is in our resources on Handshake, which is a great thing. So the next section, so volunteer, honors, activities, and skills. So these can be kind of grouped in however you want, but the honors and activities are very important. And volunteer too. So you're going to emphasize your participation in activities and then any honors that you have received. So awards, scholarship, memberships, extracurricular activities. One thing that we really like to see too is if you're part of student organizations here on campus, those are great. And I will have students expand student organizations on campus because there's several of them here on campus that are so great. They're doing a ton of volunteer stuff with their student organization. And so for those, we usually pull those out and bullet point those with a couple of their notes because I think those are important to any future employer that you're working with a student organization, but you're also volunteering to help out other places. I just saw a question on the CV.
Yes, the question reads, would you list making the dean's list on a CV?
You can list it under your education because in some cases, some people are on the dean's list for like several years. And so that could be a bullet point. The whole thing with putting education, you don't want to list like 5 or 6 bullet points on education, even though several of you might have that many you could put on there. When you put that, you can also have a section on the bottom that says skills and technology. You could list dean's list there with skills and technology. Kind of as a separate. It's kind of up to you though. Remember, there's no perfect way to do it. So then here's the new location. Look at that pretty picture of this building somebody took. So we have moved. We are over here in Gateway on the 2nd floor. So the regular hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And
Hey,
then
Darren.
Yep.
Sorry, there is another question, I believe, from Jennifer.
Yeah, it was on the previous slide.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is in specifics to like the award scholarships, bullet points. How far back would you go to listing those? Like, would you start from like the last years of high school up until the current awards, or would you just include awards in the post-secondary region, I guess?
So typically when you do a resume, you're going to leave off high school. So once you've entered into a college or a university, you want to leave high school off. You could list it under different awards. If there was things that you did that were really popular during, like something that was really substantial in high school, you could list that on a different section because you could also make an achievement section if you wanted to and list information like that. But typically when you're making your resume, you're kind of leaving off high school and grade school. But the one thing where you can keep information on there is volunteer work. So I'll have a lot of people ask me about volunteer. Well, I volunteered. I did this at my church when I was younger. And I'm like, you can leave that on there. You don't have to put dates with volunteer information because volunteer information looks good. But yeah, some people, I know, including myself, you have a whole bunch of awards and things that you did in high school. But those are things that you can usually bring up too if they discuss that in an interview for any reason or whatever. But it's just hard to fit all that information on when you're trying to do a one-page resume. A curriculum vitae, if you're trying to apply in an educational setting, you could list a whole section or a whole page of awards and achievements in a curriculum vitae, and you could bullet point or however you want to do it and list them all there. High school would matter there, especially if you're applying for something education related, like a position as a instructor or faculty professor, something like that, that would matter there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that covers most of the basis, unless I messed up my PowerPoint, which I don't think I did. So any other questions on resumes? And that's fine. I got a few more slides. So if one pops up, just send it in the chat or raise your hand or however we do this. So we have moved. So we got a couple of cool things going on here. So even though we're at the Gateway building now, so we're on the north side of campus, 2nd floor. So we're regular hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 in career services, but we're going to have brand new pop-up accessibility to meet with myself or one of my counterparts for work on resumes, cover letters, interviews. So the intersection, the 1st floor of the Student Union on Wednesday from 10 to 2, I will actually be there during that time. And so students can just pop in if they need help. We'll spend 20 or 30 minutes helping them out. The lead library, we're doing some different workshops, which I think are on my next slide. So we'll have from 2 to 4 p.m. pop up on these different dates for same thing, resumes. And then my counterpart, Eric, will be at the engineering in that big hall right in the front of the engineering building. So every Tuesday, he'll be there from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're starting these now, and then they will probably stop a week or two before the semester is over. And so that is set up over there with all these pop-up hours. If you guys walk over here, if you come to Gateway and you need help, one of us will help you. We're not going to turn you away. And then prepare for the fair. So here's the 2 big ones that are coming up. So October 19th, we're in the Student Union room 208. So this is going to run from 11 to 4. It's a week before the big career fair. And so from 11 to 4, we're going to set up for resume reviews, help with LinkedIn profiles, help with elevator pitch assistance for the career fair. And then there's going to be an employer panel from 4 to 6 p.m. So this will be available pretty soon to register for on Handshake. We did one of these this past spring. I wish we did 5 of these. We had about 150 people that showed up for it, or 120 people that showed up. And then we had 5 different employers that were there for the employer panel, which was really interesting to ask. Same ideas that we're talking about today. What are you looking for in employees? What are you looking for in resumes? When you're looking at resumes, how do you do it? And so the employer panel last time, I know we had somebody from Caesars, somebody from Engineering, we had a North Vegas Police Department there. So we had several different groups that were there. I think US Bank was there. And so that will be happening on the 19th. And then the big career fair is this year. It's at Thomas and Mack. And I think it's from 9:30 to 2:30 on the 26th. And so that is the big one that's coming up with a lot of employers registered for it. So, and then this is the other part. So workshop calendars. So, we have a lady named Alexis Jackson. So through the Anapesi program and what she is doing, she's already got these life design and career readiness programs that are already set up. And so they gave us a couple rooms at the library that we're using. So this is a schedule for these. And you guys can find all this information is on Handshake and it's posted. But there's a whole lot of different programs that are going on there. And if you guys want to, I don't know if you could hit that with your phone to register, but if you want to, you can take a look at that if you're interested in doing that. And we could keep another minute on this slide. I think my last slide is just like the social media stuff.
Just wanted to confirm that the code did work for me.
Yeah, see if that's working because Alexis did that and that's pretty new on that slide. And I don't know if that's going to work right, but I think it does.
It does work. It takes you to Handshake.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Yep. So last note, if anybody's not registered on Handshake, so make sure you set up your profile on Handshake, and from there you can set appointments with myself or any other career coaches. We have a new GA, and I got a special career coach that's working just for fine arts this year, and so we got a lot more assistance than we had before to try to help with career for everybody. So Marlena, that's what I got today.
All right, perfect. Go ahead, for everyone here, if you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the chat, or alternatively, you can definitely unmute yourself and just ask them verbally to the group. We have one question right now from Jennifer. The question is this Handshake Jobs and Careers on the App Store?
It should be. The easiest way I tell people to get to it is just go to UNLV Career Services. So go to our website. You're already in the system. Halfway down the page, it'll have a handshake thing. And when you hit log on, it's just your ACES log on. That'll get you right in. But I believe it is also on the App Store.
Perfect.
Yeah, from our page, you're already in the system, and that way it's going to pull you right in. From the App Store, it may not know what school you're going to until you log on with your email.
Okay, we have another question. It's regarding the career fair.
Mhm.
Is there more information on specifically which employers will be present?
Yes, great question. So as those career fairs, so there's already a link to that on Handshake. It is under fairs, so that's on the left side of Handshake. And the good thing about the career fair, when the employers list their information on the career fair, I think there's 90 or 110 already registered. I think we're waiting on hospitality for like another 50 to register on there. The good thing is you can go through Handshake and look at their Handshake profile of that company, and then also see that company. They'll have a link to go to their website outside of it. So you got a couple of different ways to really check out who's going to be there. At the career fair, we will have probably a two-sided document that we'll hand out to everybody that attends, and that's going to list all the employers that are there. And I think we categorize them too.
Perfect. Couple thank yous in the chat. We'll give a couple more minutes as well, just for any lingering questions.
And then I will send them my email address too. If they got questions, they can contact me direct.
Perfect.
I mean, they may not know you get career services for your entire career. Once you're UNLV alumni, you get us forever. So, I mean, this summer,
Okay.
I think of all my appointments this summer, which was busy, I would say 95% of them were alumni, and they were not even current students. They were all alumni, and alumni from all sorts of different ranges of age and all sorts of different places across the country.
That is really good to know.
Yep.
I'm set to graduate in May, so I may circle back with you guys.
We'll be here in our new building.
Yes.
I have another question. So I entered a little bit late to the meeting, but What are your thoughts, or do you recommend keeping the resume or CV as simple as possible, or is it better to use a template that might be colorful or add some color? Because I'm always conflicted as to whether to keep it plain and white and just, I guess how I've learned to do it, or if making a little bit more vibrant is good, or if it should be something to stay away from.
Yeah, not a bad question at all. It's actually something you want to stay away from. So you want to use just simple black font, white paper. We have several examples. So if you want to reach out to me and shoot me an email, I can send you some examples that we have like on PDF. But the whole issue is a computer scanning it. And when a computer sees any type of design or color or pictures, it kicks it out. And then also on the color side of it too, it's just, yeah, it just hasn't been a really good thing. So we go for very simple, very plain, but that way a computer, when it looks at it, it just scans it right away and it works out really well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question here. This is a good one. Um, do resumes intended for international employers differ in any practical or meaningful way from resumes intended for domestic employers?
So they do. We had that question come up, and I have a coworker that worked with a little bit of that. But because we're here and we're trying to focus on Vegas, we don't get a lot of that expertise. But I know I have a coworker here that has seen some information on that they are a little bit different. And you know what? Unfortunately, I don't know the best site to go to kind of look for that information. So I'm not giving a good answer on that. I'm sorry.
So they should try and maybe get with you guys, come down to Gateway and or to one of the pop-ups and kind of ask that question. Okay.
Yeah, because we can look up some information. Like I said, I know so and we have counterparts in career services at different places. I think Joe Protopapa that works in the Lee Business School, that might be a better question for Joe and for his group, which I could always reach out to Joe and ask him that to be on that business side too with how much international business that we have going around.
Okay, great. So for the person who had that question, maybe try emailing Darren later and then he can connect you with Joe.
Yep.
I have another question in regards to writing maybe like the skills or the experience portion of the resume. Is it better to, I guess, is it always best to write in third person without the I's, the us, or the we's?
Yeah, typically, I mean, you want to write it. There's, like I said, there's not really a perfect way to do the resume. You want to write it where when somebody's reading it, they're reading it and they're seeing the information. So when they look at your experience, like say it's from a job, your experience is going to list managed 15 people through 2 shifts over the course of 12 weeks. So when you're writing it, you're kind of making statements. I don't use periods on any resumes that I build or that I put together because when you do bullet points, you really want the bullet points to be concise and pretty clear, and usually, if you can, one line. So, yeah, I mean, you want to write them more like that. They're statements and not use so much, I did this, I did that. That doesn't look too good on a resume.
Gotcha. And a quick follow-up question. So, I guess like a rule of thumb would be to be as brief as possible or as concise as possible with the like bullet points well, I guess it would work for all the sections, correct?
Yeah, if you can keep the bullet points to one line, that's why we recommend a half-inch margin. When you go to a half-inch margin around the page, you really end up with a lot. You can put a whole lot of words on one bullet point that are going across. And so if you put a bullet point out and it's like 3 lines long, you just look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not really a bullet point. You just gave me a paragraph because that just takes whatever information you are. And that's where we say in the presentation, I put the words in there, cut the fluff. And that's why you're just trying to be precise and specific on what you did.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Great questions.
Here's another one for you, Darren. The person asked, can I list soft skills on my resume?
Yeah, I mean, we try to get away from those because that's usually going to be more interview related questions. So, like I said, the resume is your key to get to the interview. And so when you get to the interview, that's going to ask you more questions that are going to be more skills related. Have you ever managed anybody? Have you ever had trouble with an employee that you managed, and what did you do to deal with it? Those are interview questions that come up. Can you tell me about the most difficult problem you've ever had in a position and how was it resolved? So those are different questions that relate back to that. Soft skills, it's like when I see resumes and people have jobs in fast food and they put down there for their skills, they put customer service. And so, or not being mean or anything, but I'm saying, guess what? You're not going to work in customer service or work in fast food if you don't have customer service skills. So that's when you look at things like that and you look at information that's put on there. There's a lot that's understood. People are really smart when it comes to resumes now looking at information. So, like I said, when you put things on there, don't restate what you've already stated by telling something that you already did. I worked in fast food. You should know how to handle money. You should know how to like restock things and you should know customer service skills. So that's kind of how we look at that.
Perfect. I think we may be wrapping up. So what I did was I included a link to the feedback survey. Or sorry, no, I didn't. Let me do this really quick. I sent it to one person. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So this is the link to the feedback survey. Before you guys all log off, if you could just take a few minutes to fill out this feedback survey. It's really helpful for the graduate college so that we can make improvements for future programming and future workshops. And then before we end our session, I'd just like to thank Darren once again for sharing your time and your expertise with us. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to all the participants who joined us today. As I said, please fill out the feedback survey if you have any time, and I hope that everyone has a great day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It was good.
Thank you.